David, I can't be married to someone who looks like a patient all the time. I'm done. That's what Megan said, not even looking up from her phone, just sliding a folded stack of papers onto my lap while I'm hunched on the couch in sweats, skin sallow from chemo. Her nails tap the glass while her face stays locked on whatever scroll she's trapped in, like I'm just background noise. My mouth's dry, tongue stuck. I'm staring at the divorce forms, not understanding what I'm seeing. Megan, what, are you serious right now? My voice sounds weak even to me. I push myself upright, dizzy for a second, and the dog whines at her feet. She still won't look right at me, just tosses her hair like it's nothing. I told you last week, David. I can't do this. I can't be tied to someone who's sick all the time. Her tone is cold, almost bored. She looks at her phone again, then finally glances up at me. I have to live my life. I just can't watch you fade on the sofa every day, sorry. I'm actually shivering, part cold, part shock. You can't just, Megan, I'm fighting this. You said you'd stick around. She rolls her eyes, makes a face. I never signed up to be a nurse. Sorry if that's harsh, but it's true. I need someone who makes me feel alive, not all this. She gestures at me, at the blanket, at my bald head, at the empty tea mug I've been nursing for hours. I struggle to get to my feet even though every muscle feels like it weighs 100 pounds. So you're just leaving me? Right now? You're not even going to talk to me about this? She stands up, finally, but starts grabbing her purse and keys instead of meeting my eyes. It's not about talking, David. I already figured things out. I'm done. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. Her voice is clipped. She shrugs and heads for the door, the dog trailing after her, nails clicking on the floor. Wait, so what? You were planning this? Since when? My voice cracks. I stare at the hallway, and for the first time I notice the suitcase by the door, zipper closed, handle extended. Megan shrugs again, slings her purse over her shoulder, and finally meets my eyes for half a second. I'm not going to do this drawn-out drama, David. Just sign the papers. Send them to my lawyer. I'll pick up the rest of my stuff later. She opens the door, sunlight slicing across the floor. The dog barks like he knows what's happening. Megan turns, almost smirking, and says, "Take care of yourself, okay? And don't text me unless it's about the divorce." Then the door slams, hard enough that I flinch. I just stand there, papers shaking in my hand, staring at the suitcase she'd packed without me noticing. Had she already planned her exit while I was lying in bed, sick? It's not until the dog whines again, pawing uselessly at the door, that I realize I'm fully alone. The silence afterward is thicker than anything I ever felt in the hospital. Mark's living room always smells like coffee and cinnamon, which is supposed to be comforting, but right now all I can feel is this jittery edge pushing at my spine. I'm perched on his old recliner, trying not to wince every time I shift. Mark is pacing around, refilling everyone's mugs, while Emma sits across from me, eyes soft but sharp, kneading the hem of her sweater. "So, you're still waiting on those test results?" Mark asks, handing me coffee. He shoots Emma a look, like he's already ready to blame someone for my misery. "Yeah. Last round of chemo this Friday. They said it looks promising." I'm trying to sound upbeat. I don't want pity. I focus on the coffee, though it tastes like cardboard. Emma leans forward. "And Megan? Has she even checked in?" Her voice is gentle, but there's no hiding the edge. I shake my head, set the mug down before I drop it. "She left, signed the papers, said she can't be married to a patient." The words taste even worse than the coffee. Mark's jaw tightens. Unbelievable. She just bailed? "Apparently she'd packed before she ever handed me the papers," I say. My voice sounds hollow, too calm. The dog, well, ex-dog now, was whining at the door the whole time. Emma nods slowly. That's wow. She frowns, then her phone buzzes on the table. She glances down, then freezes. I catch it in her eyes before she shows me a flash of something between disbelief and disgust. David, I'm so sorry, but look at this. She pushes her phone toward me. Instagram. Megan, at a bar, holding a martini and laughing, her arm hooked around a guy I've definitely seen before. Rob, maybe, from her work's holiday party last year. The caption says, New Beginnings, followed by a string of hearts. Mark leans over and his face goes red. Isn't that the guy she was chatting up at her office bash? Emma keeps her eyes on me, voice careful. It's public, David. Like, anyone can see this. I don't say anything for a moment. My throat's tight. I feel the humiliation spreading, deep and sharp, like I've just been paraded through the town square. I shove the phone back, hands shaking. Mark slams his mug down so hard coffee sloshes over the edge. She moves out, and a week later this is low, man. She's flaunting it. It's surreal, I say. I guess I was expecting her to move on eventually, but I trail off as Emma's phone pings again. She glances down and her face drops. Gossip group chat, probably. Her fingers tap fast. Then she looks up at me. People are already talking, David. She tagged her old coworker in this post. Some of our mutual friends are in the comments. Mark growls. She wants everyone to know she's out living it up, like you were supposed to just fade away. Emma's phone buzzes again. She answers, voice sharp. Yeah? Oh, hi, Ethan. No, we're just at home. David's here too, actually. She pauses, glances at me, then covers the phone. It's Mark's brother. She puts Ethan on speaker. His voice is tinny. Hey, guys, did you see Megan's Insta? Everybody at her office did. Half the staff already knew she was seeing that dude, Rob. She's been accidentally leaving her phone open in the break room for weeks. Mark's mouth drops open. Wait, so she was with him before she even left? Ethan gives a little laugh, but there's no humor in it. Let's just say nobody's surprised she moved out so fast. She's been on a mission to get attention. Sorry, David, but people are saying stuff. Emma shoots me a worried look. I just stare at my hands, that numbness turning into something darker. Mark clears his throat, forces calm into his voice, but he can't hide the anger. You hear that, man? She didn't just leave. She set you up for this. The room feels smaller, the air tight with tension and pity. I try to say anything, but all I manage is, yeah, I get it. The realization hits heavier than anything Megan threw at me. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a betrayal. And now, apparently, I'm the last person to know the truth. As Emma's phone lights up again with another gossip alert, I can feel the sting settling in. The story's spreading, and I'm at the center of it, all eyes on me, waiting to see if I'm just going to sit there and take it. I hadn't been to Miller's Diner in weeks, not since I started treatment. But 3 Sundays ago, I figured I'd try to eat something normal, just for a change, maybe catch a little bit of that old routine. The parking lot was crowded, cars I half recognized, but I ignored the feeling and went in. The place smelled the same, bacon and coffee, the kind of small-town hum that always felt safe before. I was sliding onto a stool at the counter, just starting to check the menu, when I heard it, Megan's laugh. Loud, sharp, way too big for the room. My stomach dropped before I even turned. She was at a booth near the window, right in the middle of a circle of people, some old neighbors, one guy from my bowling league, a couple of faces from her work. Rob sat next to her, arms slung behind her shoulders, looking way too comfortable. Megan spotted me immediately. Oh my gosh, David. She said my name like I was a lost dog, stumbling in from the rain. Come over here, you have to meet Rob. She waved her hand, beckoning. I shook my head, tried to stay put, but she was already raising her voice. Rob, this is David, my ex. I traded up, didn't I? She winked at the booth, and the group burst out laughing. Rob flashed a grin, like this was some kind of game. One of the women leaned forward. Is that really your ex, Megan? You weren't kidding when you said you moved on fast. Rob smirked, nodding at me without getting up. Hey, man, good luck with, everything. Megan leaned forward, fake concern painted all over her face. Are you still sick, David, or just still moping? You do look a little pale. She dragged out the word, tone syrupy and mocking. Someone snorted. Another guy whispered something under his breath, and the whole booth cracked up again. I just stood there, jaw clenched, staring at the countertop. I could feel the stares, the little digs, like I was some sideshow. Megan turned away, like she was already bored. Well, guess you're still the sensitive one. Some things never change, she said, giggling as she leaned into Rob. I just stood there, fists tight, willing myself not to say something I'd regret. The waitress came by, her face tight with worry, but all she said was, You all right, hon? Quietly enough that only I could hear. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and tried to pretend I was just waiting for a coffee refill. The group kept talking, but their voices carried. Someone said, Didn't Megan say he was always a bit dramatic? Megan responded, He made such a production out of everything, even a cold. More laughter. I stared out the window, just trying to hold it together until my check came. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That's when Mr. Lawson, my next-door neighbor, who'd been sitting at the counter a few stools down, leaned over, voice low. David, I know this isn't my place, but I've heard Megan telling folks you were just making a big deal out of nothing, about your health and all. You doing all right? His eyes were kind, but his words cut right through me. I could barely nod. Thanks, Mr. Lawson. I'll be fine. My voice sounded brittle. He gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze. If you ever need anything, you know where I am. He glanced over at Megan's group, his jaw tight. Don't let them get to you, son. But as I paid my check and slipped out, the laughter and whispers didn't stop. I could feel them trailing me all the way to my car. If there was any doubt before about Megan's feelings, watching her hold court at my expense cleared it up fast. Every eye in the diner felt like it was on me, waiting to see if I'd break. And honestly, for a second, I almost did. The silence started sneaking in slowly, not all at once. I noticed at first when my phone didn't buzz on Friday like it used to, my bowling group chat was usually a mess of bad puns and arguing over who was paying for nachos, but that week, nothing. Just quiet. I tried to brush it off. Everyone gets busy, right? But the next week rolled around and I saw a bunch of photos posted by the guys. Big group shot at the lanes, everyone holding up their score sheets, even Jeff's ugly neon shoes in the foreground. A single message to me. I double-checked the chat. No new invite, no you in, just radio silence. It wasn't just the guys. I had walked Murphy, my neighbor's old retriever. They asked me to help since, well, Megan took our dog, and people I'd known for years, Mrs. Harper from 2 doors down, the Johnson kid I'd tutored, would wave from their porches but never come out to chat anymore. No. How you holding up, David? Just little nods, then doors quietly shutting. School, though, was the worst. The teacher's lounge used to be my safe zone. Coffee, corny jokes, arguing about which science fair project was most likely to set off the fire alarm. Now, whenever I walked in, the air would tighten. I'd say hi, and people would mumble back, eyes darting everywhere but at me. Once, I brought in donuts, hoping maybe old habits would break the ice. No one touched them. I caught Mr. Phelps whispering to Ms. Reyes as soon as I left the room. She shot me this guilty look when I turned around. After lunch one day, I was heading out to my car, jacket slung over my good arm, when I caught a bit of conversation drifting from behind the hedge near the side entrance. Two junior teachers, both new faces. They didn't see me at first. I mean, maybe he's just having a rough year, but still. Megan said he was always kind of dramatic about stuff. Yeah, she told me he made up half of it for sympathy. Playing up the whole poor me angle. My breath caught. They weren't even whispering. I rounded the corner so they'd see me, and they snapped shut, both suddenly engrossed in their phones. I didn't even try to confront them. I just walked to my car, but my hands were shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice. At home, the quiet was even thicker. Every day, some little thing would remind me. Mark's wife, Emma, would text now and then. Thinking of you, just checking in. But most of my so-called friends disappeared. Even my mother called less, her voice awkward, almost like she'd heard something and didn't know how to ask. The worst was the sense that people weren't just withdrawing. They were talking. Not to me, but about me. I felt it in the way conversations trailed off when I entered the lounge, or the careful way Mr. Phelps would ask, "Everything all right at home?" before quickly changing the subject. At the grocery store, I caught the checker giving me this pitying look, and the next woman in line whispering, "That's Megan's ex, right? The one who made up all that for attention?" It was like I was walking underwater, hearing my own name ripple through the current but never able to stop and breathe. Every interaction felt loaded now. Even Murphy, wagging his tail and nuzzling my knee, couldn't fill the ache that was settling in my chest. I'd expected to feel alone after Megan left. I hadn't expected that she'd take nearly everyone else with her, or that my own story, my pain, my fight, would be turned against me as just another thing I was supposedly making up for sympathy. I stood at my window one evening, lights off, watching the street, and listened as another neighbor wandered by on the phone. Well, Megan said he was always looking for attention. Who knows what's true anymore? The words echoed, bouncing inside the walls of my house, hollowing out all the old warmth. I realized then this wasn't just about losing Megan. This was about losing the faith of everyone who once believed in me. And I had no clue how to get any of it back. A couple weeks after the freeze-out started, things managed to get even worse. I'd run out of medication, stuff I needed, not the nice-to-have kind, and went to pick it up at the pharmacy after school. I was already nervous. The copays were always a surprise. But when I slid my card across the counter, the cashier tapped at the register, waited, then frowned. "Sorry, sir, your card's coming up declined. Maybe try again." I blinked. "No, that can't be right," I said, keeping my voice low even though my palms were sweating. "It's the joint account. I just got paid." I tried again, more forceful this time. Same result. There was a small line forming behind me, people shifting, pretending not to listen. The cashier looked apologetic and handed my card back. "You might want to call your bank, sir," she said quietly. Red-faced, I stepped aside and dialed up the bank from the parking lot, crouched in my car, with the medicine bag still empty in my hand. The hold music went on forever, and by the time someone answered, my frustration was boiling over. "Yeah, hi, this is David Holbrook. Something's wrong with my card. My prescription just got declined. It's our joint savings account. Should be plenty in there." The woman paused, clicking away on her keyboard, then cleared her throat. "Actually, sir, I'm seeing a few large withdrawals in the last week. The balance is quite low." My mind went blank. "What kind of withdrawals?" She hesitated. "Multiple charges from Sandals Resort, JetBlue, and what looks like a rental car service in Miami." It hit me all at once. Megan. Her vacation. My money. "So wait, the account's empty? What about my paycheck?" She stammered. "There's a small amount left from your deposit, but the bulk was transferred out. I'm sorry, sir." I pressed my fist against the steering wheel, breathing in hard. Can you put a flag on the account? Make sure there's no more out? She was silent for a moment, then quieter. Sir, Miss Holbrook called last week to inform us of instability on the account. She requested we notify her of unusual activity. She said you've been unreliable lately. My jaw clenched. Unreliable how? That's my money too. I'm the one paying the bills. More silence. She said, with your recent situation, she was concerned about joint assets. I'm really sorry, sir, but that's the note in your file. If you need to dispute the charges, you'd have to come in and fill out paperwork. It felt like the world was spinning. I thanked her, barely, and hung up. I just sat there for a few minutes, staring at nothing, knuckles white on the wheel. As the anger started to win out over the shame, I scrolled through my phone for proof. From mutual friends' feeds, the story pieced itself together. Megan on a beach in Florida, sunglasses and daiquiris, selfies with Rob at some oceanfront club. Meanwhile, I was getting side-eyed in the pharmacy line and couldn't even afford my meds. I called the bank again, and when I got to the branch, the teller, a guy I'd seen at Megan's office party once or twice, wouldn't even meet my eye. He leaned over, voice barely a whisper. Look, between you and me, Megan said you were, not totally reliable lately, and she wanted to make sure the account was safe. I'm sorry, man. I just stared at him, rage pounding at my temples. Even the people handling my money believed her. The injustice burned hotter than anything I'd felt before. This wasn't just losing friends or facing whispers. She'd stolen from me while I was down and told everyone I was some kind of liability. I walked out of that bank with my hands shaking, but this time, it wasn't with weakness or fear. I'd never been angrier in my life. For the first time since Megan walked out, I felt something other than defeat. I knew I'd hit bottom, and maybe, just maybe, I was ready to fight my way up. That final chemo session almost felt like an ending and a beginning, all tangled together. I walked into the treatment center, arms full of paperwork, stomach knotted with dread and leftover anger. The nurses gave me those practiced, polite smiles, and the other patients mostly kept to themselves. I took the far recliner, tried to breathe through the chemical smell, and waited for the drip to start. A young resident came by to check my chart. He looked about 12, but his coat said, Dr. Patel. He squatted down next to me, clipboard balanced on one knee. So, Mr. Holbrook, you're almost done, huh? He said, like finishing chemo was as casual as finishing a crossword. Yeah, last round. Hoping for the best, I said, forcing a smile. He grinned. You teach at Northside, right? Science, I think. That's me. High schoolers. Some days it feels like harder work than this chemo. That got a real laugh out of him. The first genuine one I'd heard in ages. My little cousin's in your class, he said, keeps talking about the egg drop experiment. She says you made physics fun, which, no offense, I didn't think was possible. I actually laughed at that. I try my best. If I can stop one more kid from setting the lab on fire, I call it a win. Patel's face got thoughtful. Our hospital's been working with Channel 6. They're looking for local people to feature folks who make a difference. Would you be open to telling your story? Not just the illness, how you kept working, inspired kids, that kind of thing? I blinked. You mean like on TV? My first instinct was no, but the more he explained, the more I felt something shift just a little. Yeah. Segments called Teachers Making a Difference. They want a real person, not just a press release. You up for it? He studied my face, eyes bright, like he was actually rooting for me. For the first time in months, my answer came out without doubt. Yeah. I think I'd like that, actually. He clapped me on the shoulder. Awesome. I'll give your info to the producer. Expect a call, okay? After he left, I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to remember the last time I felt hopeful about anything. By the time the nurse unhooked my hands weren't shaking. It was weird, but I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was more than the story Megan had written about me. I was sitting in my car, scrolling through emails, when my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, old habit, but something made me answer. David, this is Lisa from Channel 6. Dr. Patel gave us your number. We'd love to have you on next week's show, live in studio. And don't tell anyone I tracked down your old principal, Mr. Ramsey. He's agreed to come in for a surprise. We want to talk about your impact on students and your fight through adversity. I had to grip the steering wheel tight so I wouldn't drop the phone. You got Ramsey? He was my first boss. He's the reason I started teaching, you know. Lisa's voice was warm. It's going to be emotional. I really think your story can help people. We'd love for you to be part of this. As I hung up, I felt the first flicker of pride I'd felt since the whole mess began. Not the brittle kind, but something real, earned. For once, the story was going to be about what I did right, not what Megan wanted people to believe. My pulse was steady, my heart racing for a good reason. I still had a week before facing the cameras, but for the first time in what felt like years, I was actually looking forward to something. The TV segment aired on a Wednesday evening. I was a bundle of nerves the whole day, half worrying I'd stumble over my words or look as awkward as I felt. But when the lights went up and they rolled the intro, Teachers Making a Difference, I saw Mr. Ramsey's familiar grin and everything else faded away. The interview felt honest, even hopeful. I talked about science, about the kids who kept me hopeful during the worst days, about teaching through chemo because I refused to be just another sad story. The producer squeezed my arm afterward and told me, "You nailed it." I figured it might get a few polite comments, maybe a fist bump in the hallway if I was lucky. I did not expect my phone to blow up the minute I stepped outside. I had texts from students I hadn't seen in years, emails from parents, old friends from the bowling league who'd ghosted me sending messages full of apologies. One message started it off. "Hey, Mr. H, we just watched you on TV. My son picks science now because of you. Sorry I ever doubted your story." Another followed. "Can't believe how strong you've been, Dave. If you ever want to roll again, lanes are on me." Then Miss Reyes, who'd given me the cold shoulder in the lounge for weeks, cornered me by the mailboxes. "David, I am so sorry." I didn't know what to believe. People talk. I wish I'd come to you first. Even the neighbor across the street, who hadn't said a word to me since Megan left, walked over that evening carrying a casserole and a slightly embarrassed smile. "We watched last night. For what it's worth, nobody thinks you made anything up anymore. You need anything, you let us know, okay?" I caught people chatting in the lounge about the segment. This time, when I walked in, nobody changed the subject. Mark called, voice hoarse. "You crushed it, man." Megan's little circle? Even they're saying she did you dirty. Emma sent me screenshots from one of Megan's group chats. People are starting to realize what really happened, David. One of her friends said, the way she left him, and he still comes out like that, she doesn't have half his class. You really turned this around. I sat with that message for a long time, just letting it sink in that maybe, finally, I was getting my life back on my own terms. That feeling of power and satisfaction of not being the victim but the guy who survived just kept growing. It felt like the tide was finally turning, like Megan's lies were dissolving in the light of something real. The next morning, just as I was riding that high, my phone buzzed with a new DM. It was Megan. "Hey," she wrote, like nothing had ever happened. "Watched you on Channel 6. You looked really good. I miss our late night talks. Hope you're doing all right. No apology, no mention of Rob, no reference to anything she'd done, just this casual, syrupy note from someone who clearly thought she could just slide back in." I stared at the message, the old pain that threatening to surface. But all I felt now was a strange sense of calm. The world had seen who I was, and so had she. For the first time, it was me who had the choice of what story got told next. The morning after Megan's DM, I kept things flat and distant. Glad you saw the segment. I'm doing all right. If you really want to catch up, I think Rob should join us. Seems only fair to be honest, right? She didn't hesitate. Totally, we should all get together, she replied, adding a smiley like it was some normal thing. Rob would love to see you. Maybe we can clear the air. I could almost picture her already, spinning stories, ready to crawl back into my life now that the tide had turned. But I'd learned my lesson. I screenshotted the exchange and texted Mark Anma immediately. Mark called me in seconds, voice low and urgent. You sure about this, Dave? I mean, the woman torched everything you had left. I'm not doing it alone. I need you both here, I told him. If she thinks this is a victory lap, she's in for a surprise. Emma didn't hesitate. We'll be there. Just let us know when. She'll try to spin it, but I don't think Rob knows half of what really went down. She was quiet for a second, then, Are you ready for this? More than I've ever been, I said, and for once, I meant it. Later that day, I saw a buzz on my phone. Emma sent me a screenshot from a group chat with one of our mutual friends. Megan had been bragging, back in control. He's already asking to see me again, smirking face, she'd written. Told you it was just a matter of time before he came crawling back. Emma just wrote, Thought you'd want to know. She's prepping a whole show for this. Be careful. I stared at the screen, heat rushing up my neck, but mostly what I felt was calm, like watching a chess game where I knew every move. Mark texted again, We'll be there the whole time, no matter what she tries. I set the date and sent Megan a short reply. This Saturday at my place, late afternoon. Bring Rob. I'll have some snacks out. I'd like Mark and Emma to join for old time's sake. She replied in minutes, all fake excitement. Perfect. Can't wait. Rob's so excited to see you again. This is going to be fun. I looked around my house, freshly painted and finally feeling like mine again, and saw the whole thing. Megan's comeback story. The way she tried to wrap it all up with some neat bow for herself. But this time, she wasn't the one writing the ending. This time, I had backup and witnesses and absolutely nothing left to lose. As Saturday approached, I got ready, not for a reunion, but for the first real reckoning since everything fell apart. For once, it felt like the pieces were finally clicking into place. Saturday afternoon, the house was spotless. I barely recognized it. Fresh paint, new curtains, everything sharp and in its right place for the first time since Megan left. Mark and Emma arrived first. Mark posted up by the kitchen, arms folded, Emma pretending to fuss over a tray of sodas. My hands were steady setting out the snacks. I could feel a weird calm settling in. I was ready. Bang on the door, too loud, then Megan's voice, sweet and fake. David. Oh my gosh, it looks so different in here. She breezed in, Rob a step behind, looking uncomfortable in a too tight button-down. Megan's eyes darted around, landing on Emma and Mark. It seriously looks amazing in here, she gushed, her tone all nostalgia. It's like nothing ever happened, right? Yeah, I remember, I said, keeping my voice flat. Glad you could both make it. Rob shook my hand a little too hard and wouldn't meet my eye. Hey, man. Congrats on, everything. The TV thing was cool. Megan leaned in, squeezing my arm. You look so much more like yourself these days. I was telling Rob how strong you've always been. Maybe we could, get back to how it used to be? She blinked at me, big doe eyes, letting her voice drop to a whisper like it was just us in the room. Mark coughed, loud and deliberate. Emma shot Megan a look that could freeze water. I stepped back, gestured to the sofa for everyone to sit. Before we get into old times, I want to lay something out, I said. My voice was steady, and Megan's smile flickered. I faced them all, clear and calm. After you left, Megan, you emptied our account, a joint account, by the way, while I was still paying for my treatment. You took a vacation with Rob here, right after the divorce papers landed. I saw the photos online. You told the bank I was unreliable. You told people at work that I fabricated things for sympathy. Then, after my story got out, you messaged me, pretending nothing ever happened. I have the screenshots if you want to see the receipts. Rob stiffened, his face turning the color of old tile. Wait, what? You told me the money was your bonus from work. Megan, what the hell? Megan turned on him fast, voice sharp. Rob, don't start. This isn't the time. But Rob wasn't having it. You said you two were over before we even talked. You said he never really needed help, that he made it up to get attention. You drained his money for us to go to Miami? Are you kidding me? Megan's jaw snapped shut, but now her mask was slipping. Rob, can we talk outside? Rob stood up, voice shaking with fury. No, I don't want to talk outside. You lied to everyone, including me. You used me, just like you tried to use him again now. You're unbelievable. He turned to me, looking almost apologetic. David, I'm sorry, man. I had no clue. Then he stormed to the door, but not before yanking it open with enough force to rattle the hinges. As he walked to his car, a voice piped up from the yard across the street. Mrs. Harper, phone pointed at the front porch, eyes wide. She shouted, You all right, David? Want me to send this to your lawyer? Making it clear she'd caught the whole thing on video. Megan spun, panic in her face. You can't let them see that, David. Stop her. But Emma stepped in, cool and even. I think everyone should see how this played out. You brought this on yourself, Megan. Megan stammered, eyes flashing from me to Mark to the open door, all her fake confidence draining out. The sound of Rob's tires screeching out of my driveway echoed down the block. People were already gathering on porches, whispering and pointing as the wreck unraveled right in front of them. For the first time, Megan looked well and truly stuck the center of a show she no longer controlled. I watched her, silent, as the last of her stories collapsed right there in my living room. I didn't need to say a word. The whole neighborhood already knew. Megan must have felt everyone's eyes on her, because her voice jumped an octave as soon as Rob's car peeled out. She tried to recover, forcing a brittle laugh, but her hands were shaking. David, you know this isn't fair. You set me up. You really want people thinking I'm some kind of monster? After everything we had? Emma stood at the edge of the living room, arms folded, watching Megan like she was waiting for her to finally run out of tricks. Mark didn't bother hiding his scowl. Megan's gaze darted between them, searching for an ally. She found nothing but cold faces and silence. She stepped forward, desperate now. You really want to end it like this? You're just going to shut me out after I came all this way to talk things through? I kept my voice level. Megan, you ended things the day you left. You made your choices. Thanks for finally showing me who you really are. I opened the door wide and clear, making sure she saw the neighbors still gathered across the street, phones half raised. She tried one last time, voice almost pleading. David, please, don't do this. You don't have to make me look bad in front of everyone. We can talk. I shook my head. We're done talking. I nodded toward the porch. You can go now. Megan stared at me, throat working, but there was nothing left to say. She stepped outside, and I closed the door, firm, no drama, just the clean snap of an ending. Inside, the house was still. Mark let out a low whistle. Emma hugged me, tight and wordless. My phone buzzed again. A dozen messages from neighbors, old friends, even a couple teachers, every one of them saying, "Saw the video. Proud of you, man." Out front, Mrs. Harper's voice rang out, loud enough for the whole street. "Guess you won't be coming back here again." That was it. No more fear, no more bitterness. Just the sound of the door clicking shut and Megan's footsteps fading down the walk.